Hello and welcome to the Higher Learning Exchange podcast, a space for innovators to push the boundaries of education practice and technology. Okay, so hello and welcome. I am Carmen Tomás, your host today, and I'm really excited to be welcoming Félix López. Hello, Félix.
Hello, Carmen. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Félix is the director of the SEK Lab. SEK Lab is a one-of-a-kind EdTech Accelerator in Spain. It's the only specialized in EdTech in the country. Félix, I'm really excited to hear more about this accelerator that you're leading, and also you've got a privileged position. You see quite a lot about what happens in EdTech in Spain and also globally. Thank you so much for being here today. And I'm just going to start by asking you, how did this come about? How did this start? Because this is not a public enterprise. This is something that came from a particular university, and how you got involved, and also a little bit about the work you do with SEKLab.
Okay, perfect. Then I will tell you the history of this. I was engaged of EdTech 10 years ago or 12 years ago, after 20 years working in large companies, big companies in sales and marketing. The first startups that come to me for be their mentor, they were EdTech companies. So it was my destiny. Obviously, it was my destiny.
Oh, wow.
In 2012, I was leading an association for startups here in Madrid. But know it. And the first companies that, hey, Felix, can you help us on sales and marketing? They were EdTech companies. And in the next years, someone from the Camilo José Cela University visited my association for entrepreneurs, just to share my experience and the experience from entrepreneurs at university at the first years. And he invited me just to make some speaking opportunities. Hey, Felix, come to the university to talk about entrepreneurship. And then the year later, he told me, hey, Felix, we want to create an incubator or an awards. You know someone? I raised my hand. Hey, José Luis, give my CV for leading this incubator. The Camilo José Cela University, it's part of an educational group. It's SEK Group that has 130 years. So it's a long history school from 0 to 18 years old. It's leading innovation for the last more than 100 years in Spain. They have 12 schools, international schools in Spain, and also in Emirates and France and Italy, and also the University Camilo José Cela. So once I just passed the process and joined the company, I decided not an incubator for students, just in any field, watching the core business of the institution. It's innovation in education. Hey, let's launch the first EdTech Accelerator here in Spain. And they say yes.
Wow. Okay. That was a very pleasant surprise to find this kind of innovation in my own country. But thanks, Felix, and thanks to all of you, because I think it's a very advanced. Felix, so can you tell me a little bit about, so how do you work and how do you select what companies? It's a very dynamic field, and also you're covering any level of education, so from primary, secondary, university, all the way to organizational and lifelong learnings. So how you manage all this complexity and how you select the people you want to work with and support.
We decided to create this accelerator. We look around and we see, for example, we had Guaira and Lanzadera or Silk Rocket in Barcelona. They were accelerators with some maturity, but they don't put focus on EdTech startups. So I have to look for outside Spain. I just discovered Mindset in Tel Aviv with 3 years before us, just accelerating companies, Lab Launch in Boston, also Tech de Monterrey. So I just make some benchmark, just watching what these accelerators do. In that case, I decided to create a real accelerator, looking for companies that they are established in the market. So they have the market fit, or they are close to the market fit. The founders should be 100% focused on the company. So I'm not working in KPMG, and in the afternoons I'm launching this EdTech. The founders should be 100% focused on the company. they should bring real innovation. No, it's just another marketplace, another platform for English. Really innovative in education in any single step, from 0 to 100 years old. Global ambition, obviously, because SEK Group, we have, as I mentioned, schools outside Spain. So global ambition, special bonus if they have social impact also. So these are the companies that we are looking for. The first year we had 40 companies applying. So the first cohort for SEKLab was 40 companies. They apply and we select 8 companies with this profile. 7 from Spain and 1 from Italy, 1 outside Spain. The second year we joined a company from the US. The third year another company from Hungary and from India. So in these 9 years we just analyzed 500 companies. So 500 companies apply to the SEK Lab Accelerator, and we accelerate close to 100 companies in these 9 years.
When you say really innovative, what does that mean to you? How do you look for when you look for innovation when somebody submits an application to you?
We can just compare with, for example, the health industry. When you try something with patients and it works, it's good. So in education, when we try something with students or teachers or families or the school principals and it works, it's good. So in that case, innovation is this. We have to say, wow. The jury, I have an external jury. It's people working in education. They are investors, people in technology. When we say, wow, this is new, this is incredible, this increase the level of students, this decrease the level of drop down. So it should be evidences that the problem that they are solving, it's important. So this is innovation for us.
Okay. So it's more about the problem that is being solved, not so much about it's AI, therefore, because that can be misleading, yeah? So because you've got some AI.
We want evidences. When I go then to the schools, when we have the 10 candidates that won the Accelerator program, and we go to the schools, they want to, hey, Felix, I want to try with this in my classroom. I want to try this in my school. So this is my main goal. So making a good selection, because our educational group won't be always on the top of the schools innovative in Spain. This is the main reason.
So you've been in contact with 500 companies, or you've learned about them, and then you've supported directly 100 companies. So that's a significant volume, isn't it? So what is in your mind? I mean, you must have so much. What have you observed about trends and patterns and maybe things that are missing as well?
Yeah, I can do it. For example, for the first, second, third cohort, we saw some solutions in hardware. So like robotics, 3D printing, IoT. And during the last 6 years, nothing happened. Nothing happened new, really relevant. For example, in hardware solutions, 3D printing and robotics, for the last 6 years, I don't observe new solutions. Then, talking about gamification, it's always trendy. For the starting from the third cohort until now, always we are watching just gamification, engaging solutions. This is something that is happening in every cohort, for example. Then, talking about VR and AR, again, I start to see at the companies with amazing solutions in VR and AR from the very beginning, I can say. Just 9 years ago, probably 7 years ago, just watching, wow. For example, a company from a little part of Spain in Asturias, that they are building a real metaverse, much better than Facebook metaverse, for example, or Meta metaverse. So we have the pioneers of metaverse in the third cohort, for example, so 2016-17. So this is amazing. Then English is always here. So we have top companies having amazing solutions to learn English, business English or English for kids like Lingo Kids. So English is always there. Always we have 2-3 EdTech companies applying with English or language learning solutions. And for the, let me see, for the fourth cohort, more or less, or the fifth cohort, so 4 years ago, we start to see amazing companies with real social impact talking about inclusion. Inclusion for those students that they have problems to learn maths or for reading capabilities and or other problems, for example. So this is nice because the inclusion was totally forgiven in the last years, and I'm watching amazing EdTech companies thinking about inclusion for the last, let's say, 4 or 5 cohorts, for example.
Wow, that's so interesting. And are there any areas where you think, maybe when you get the applications through, that you think, and no one looked at this area? Are there any areas in your mind, that are not being looked at sufficiently?
Yeah, for example, also orientation. Orientation, talking about the students in secondary, they don't know what to study in their future before joining the university or vocational educational training. So for the last 3 years, I'm also observing there are in Spain around 6 at the companies that are putting the focus on orientation for secondary students. Also, just to join the best university, for example, this is also another trend. True, interesting also.
You're mentioning many trends that seem quite generic. I don't know how much of this innovation is being aimed at universities, but how founders are seeing and perceiving this particular level of education, because it's really quite significant.
Having this perspective, for example, in every cohort, as I mentioned, we select 10 companies, 10, 12. So only the 20%, so 2, it's 10, they have special focus on higher education, for example. Yeah. Most of them, they have focus on K-12, so innovation at the companies for schools. Also, a very few, 10%, let's say, or less, 10% it's for corporate education, and 20% that companies in Spain and also applying for the SEK Lab Accelerator, they are focusing on higher education, for example. I think that these are the real numbers that I have in my hand, looking for cohort by cohort. Yeah.
So there is a smaller number of founders interested in developing solutions for universities.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know if you've got any thoughts about that, and why is that the case? Is that because obviously universities need a lot of innovation? So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, they need innovation the same that the schools or corporate education. The pioneers normally are the corporate education. They have more money. They are more just worried about how to innovate. The second ones are schools, and the last ones are universities. It's sad, but it is true. But there are amazing solutions for the universities. For example, management solutions. These tools that increase or benefit the way that they manage all the students, all the issues in the university. Also, there are some apps, amazing apps for engage the students' life, for example. So engage them with activities, with, for example, internships, etc. So in that case, there are good solutions for engagement, life at the university, internships. Also, there are a few solutions. Gamification also. It's obviously important for university students. And also, I was trying simulators. For example, I'm teaching entrepreneurship at the university, and I discovered an EdTech from Chile that there has a simulator. It's amazing. So the way that I engage my students, just working in a virtual space, just making or playing, being entrepreneurs. So in that case, there are also amazing solutions that can be applied in different areas or subjects. And the last one can be companies that help universities reach new students, so lead generation. In that case, talking about business, also there are companies that they are succeeding in this field.
Understandably. Do you have any words of wisdom for the university sector to perhaps attract more innovation? The fact that the majority of the innovation is going to corporate learning, then to schools, but then I think there's something there to reflect upon, like why is our universities less interesting for founders?
Well, I can say, or I observe that, for example, the public universities in Spain, they have a lot of bureaucracy. So if you want to close a deal with a public university, you have to break many barriers. So the owner of the university, the technology department, the innovation department, if they have, for example, break the barrier of the teachers if they want to make better testing because they are probably collapsed. So there are many, many barriers in a university. But also in the private universities, they have the same bureaucracy, probably the same. They have similar structure. So when you join or when you knock at the door of a private university, probably you will have also to save many, many barriers until you just have a real pilot in the university. So it's quite complex. The process is really slow. And the founders, they decide just to go to another field or just start with corporate, start with higher ed, or start with schools.
Yeah.
This is my view.
Felix, so you've talked about over the last 8 years, you've worked with over 100 companies. From my understanding about startups is that a lot of them fail. And this is why it's a challenging world. So what has been your experience? And now that you've been 8 years seeing these EdTech startups come through your sector, what results are you finding? What's your experience?
Well, in that case, I'm really proud because I'm surprised. Just a few months ago, I was analyzing all the companies that passed by our accelerator, and I discovered that 70% of them, they are still alive. They are still active. Okay. So normally in the market, 90% they close on the 4th year. So this is a good number.
Wow, amazing. Is there something that you're observing perhaps that is leading to this high rate of success?
The success, there are many, many factors. For example, one of them with SEK Group, with the accelerator, they have the perfect market fit. They can make a better testing, a real meta testing with the schools that they want the best. So my teachers, my principals, hey, we want the best solutions. So with this market fit, they succeed. Also, they succeed because we provide mentors, amazing mentors that they are pro bono. We have 60 mentors, around 5-6 mentors for each company. And also is one of the reasons also for succeed. So being well accompanied by mentors that they have previous experience in education, they have good context, good network. So I think that these are the reasons.
So have you mentioned that because you are an education company, you also offer the test bed and and the piloting. Okay, that makes complete sense. And that can make such a big difference because that's really hard to get. It's very hard to get a pilot if you don't have the access.
Exactly. And it really works at the end of the program. When we close in June, we just start to negotiate with the best ones. Okay, Felix, we discovered in Math. We just realized that this is the best way to teach maths. So let's forget the previous company that we worked before to teach maths or the books that we worked in the past. And let's start the next year working with Math in all schools. So in that case, more than 20 companies are working now with SEK Group, like Math, Celebrity, Smart Learn, Twinix, and other companies, thanks to the SEKLab Accelerator program.
That's such an interesting model. You're an accelerator that is also an education company. So you've got a very powerful context there, don't you? So why is this education group interested in supporting this? I mean, are they also investing? What's the gain here?
Yeah, for example, the first reason it's pure innovation. So as I mentioned at the beginning, for the last more than 100 years, they are always just looking for the best solutions in education, from 0 to 18 years old for higher education, corporate education. So in the past, before the SEK Lab Accelerator, the teachers, the principals, they attend huge events or big events like Bed Show, for example, just to this is scouting. So in that case, I accompany them, just opening new windows to new solutions. So this is the reason for SEK Group. They're thinking about to invest in some of them, in some of these companies. Just talking about became not venture capital, but just corporate venture capital. Also, they start to invest in some of these companies after this period of learning from them, because they have big opportunities. So after the COVID, the EdTech market just grows. Now they're just more calm, but also the EdTech companies, they raise a lot of money. So all the companies that join the SEK Lab, most of them, they raise good amount of money from investors and from our mentors, for example. So the mentors that at SEK Lab also, also me, we invest in some of the companies that we discovered at the SEK Lab Accelerator.
The model makes a lot of sense. If you want great innovation, then create it and support it, and then you'll have great innovation. We're moving on to the last question. And I wanted to know from your perspective, what do you see on the horizon? So what can we expect to see coming on in a year? I know it's a crazy time. Obviously, we've got AI, obviously that might be there. But what are you seeing on the horizon? What's the landscape going to look like in EdTech in a year or so?
Well, the landscape, as I mentioned, gamification is here, so makes education better, fun, and also you have numbers. So, for example, this Saturday, I was teaching students in corporate education using gamification tools and Genially, and I can see in which questions I have to improve or they are more difficult for them. So I find difficult for students that they can follow the class, for example. So the data. All these tools that give me data and insights from the students, this is perfect. And also the trends is also, we start to talk about this. Probably from the very beginning, the companies that apply for the SEK Lab is adaptive learning. Now we have real tools that they make real adaptive learning, for example. Another company like Odilo. I want to learn about big data. And this platform is like Netflix. Hey, Felix, if you want to learn about this, you can read this, you can listen this, you can watch this. So in that case, also there are amazing solutions that can help you in real adaptive learning. And another trend, lifelong learning. I'm 50 years old, probably I have to work for the last 15 years, so I have to learn year on year. So in that case, more focus. We have to put more focus on these tools that is for upskilling and reskilling, or people that they are underpaid or they are not working, and in 3 months they can attend a boot camp and be coder in 3 months. So leaving a bad job and just increase the career possibilities. So in that case, these are the trends: gamification, adaptive learning, lifelong learning, and upskilling, reskilling, I think. And AI is behind all of this, obviously.
Exactly. It's needless to say that AI is going to be part of all of those, right? It's just, we can't escape it now. Felix, thank you so much. It's a luxury to get summary. So thank you for your insight. Thanks for sharing the story of the SEK Lab. Thank you so much, Felix. And I'm sure we will be inviting you back in the future to talk more about the developments and trends.
Thank you, Carmen. Big pleasure.